amphibious thing in the water, it sprouted these tentacles, and we'll go into that type of thing, but that's what the key is based on water, and if they can dehydrate you right through your fucking kitchen sink, they got your ass. Doom. He must not drink the water of life. Now go to Revelations, and in Revelations, he say, I will give you the water of life. It's in Revelation. It's in the Bible 5 or 6 times. You see what I'm saying? In the Bible 5 or 6 times. So we want to deal with some of that type of stuff. You see what I'm saying? So when we come back in a few minutes, and we're not going to stay long, we're going to deal with some of that stuff also too. But like I said, on the internet, and I can give you the www.com number, they have patented melanin, and I'll give you the www.com number that you can get it where they have patented this melanin called Melanin Plus. So he got like a little Claire prophet, the Celestial Dream Prophecy people, and all these particular groups he's saying, the government groups, and he's from Australia. And he's from Australia. And a lot of information is going on. He busted them. His name is Joseph Cipollone. This is the guy, Joseph Cipollone, and he has a whole website, as well as books and all this type of stuff, and he's dealing with some of this Gnostic stuff on 2 creations. On 2 creations, he's dealing with that too. Are we on? Are we on? Okay. So Joseph Cipollone is the guy on the website that you want to get his particular information. I mean, unbelievable stuff. And like I said, now there's a cult war going on. To get a glimpse of this cult war going on, and it's not between black people. It's a cult war going on between white people. You got to rent the movie Pi. Rent the movie Pi, and you'll see this guy who has learned how to break down what is called chaos mathematics. And yet he's got the Jewish rabbis looking for him, and he's got the United States government wanting to hire him. And they got this black girl coming in, and she's working for the government. And anyway, it's a whole lot of stuff going down. Well, this is what's happening realistically. Apparently a lot of these Jews, European Jews, enter into certain secret societies like the OTO, Golden Dawn Society, and a whole bunch of Rosicrucians and stuff. And they go in and they get the secrets for the Jewish, for Israel. See, the Jews have an oath that they take as a young child, that based on their oath that they take as a young child, that whatever group they get in, whatever secret society that they get in, that the Israeli oath as a Jew overrides all other oaths, and as a result, they got to give up whatever kind of secrets that they got from these other secret societies. So it's a big nasty war going down. A big nasty war going down right now against different factions of different forms of secret societies, and it's going down at this particular time. And also, but we're going to get into some of those particular things also in a few minutes. In a few minutes, but right now I want to give you a couple of other things that you need to deal with. One of the words for Osiris is also Asura, as well as in Persia, Osiris is called Ahura, and that's why on Star Trek the black woman is called Sergeant Ahura. That's Osiris. Apparently this word Asura, or Asura, there's different names, Asura, also is broken down in all types of ancient cultures around the Mediterranean and Africa. So your word surah in the Quran is literally a name for Osiris. As well as you people that pledge the Greek fraternities in college, as you know, if anybody pledges sorority, you say the Sarah. That's another name for Osiris. Osiris. As well as in the ancient text, melanin was seen as what is called a virus. A virus that is transmitted through sexually active activity, which is so many words. This virus means genetic annihilation for someone who does not have melanin. So this particular virus is later on translated, this melanin virus is translated as a plague, and it's called the plague carrier, and the plague carrier is known as Nosferatu, which you know of as a name for Dracula. You see what I'm saying? Nosferatu. Now, you want to go get 2 movies. You want to go get 1974 movie. Let's see. The first one is called, the last of 1975 is called The Satanic Rites of Dracula. The Satanic Rites of Dracula. The 1974 movie is called Taste the Blood of Dracula. No, let's see. It's Dracula, Taste the Blood of Dracula, Satanic Rites of Dracula. Hold on, let me see if I got these notes right. Because I want you to get the right one. The one you want is, you want to get Taste the Blood of Dracula, Dracula, 1972 AD. All these are played by Christopher Lee in the Hammer film. So you want to get Taste the Blood of Dracula. You can rent these. Dracula, 1972 AD. As well as you want to get the last movie he did, The Satanic Rites of Dracula, that was banned in America. Now, in the Satanic Rites of Dracula, they got this ritual going on in this house, this big mansion. They sacrificing these victims in the ritual. As a result of them sacrificing these particular victims in the ritual, one guy actually gets away. When he gets away, he goes to the British intelligence, and they ask him what was going on in the house where they had these particular rituals going on. And number one, they had underground surveillance, or what they call undercover surveillance, of these particular people partaking in the rituals. And in so many words, it was the people who run the society on top of the ground in England. So this is a case study of Illuminati. And they look and they say, oh, well, who's over the rituals? And they say, oh, this is our boss. He can shut down this job in a matter of seconds. You see, so it's advanced influential figures who's partaking in these rituals. The guy that escapes, when he's explaining what's going on, and they know that these are these wealthy landowners and these particular people like the Rothschilds or whatever, if you put the 2 and 2 together, who's going into these rituals, and the guy asked him, he said, well, what kind of rituals were they? And he said they were going through rituals. He said the rituals were obscene rites. Now, you remember we talked about the book Black Sun by Peter Moon. Did anybody get the book The Black Sun by Peter Moon? And the Black Sun by Peter Moon, when they talk about, well, what do these elite people do? And I explained it in the last couple of lectures and said, well, they eat live pineal glands. And these live pineal glands are called the obscene rites. Now that's in Black Sun, Peter Moon, 1997. But yet I found a movie, The Satanic Rites of Dracula, 1975, and the guy mentions obscene rites. You see what I'm saying? It's in the actual movie. But in the movie Dracula 72 AD, Dracula dies and this gray-looking dust, this gray matter, which is a mixture of melanin and a light particle, is on the ground, and this guy scoops this gray matter up, and later on he hands it down generation from like the 1800s to 1972, and one of his grandchildren does this satanic rite and mixes human blood with this gray matter, melanin, and brings back Dracula. All of this is the science of melanin, number one. Anytime you get a gray matter or what you call an ash, a leftover ash. When you read on the Titans was burned up and they left behind a titanic or titanium ash. And from that ash, they use that ash to make man out of. That ash is melanin. It's all in the Titan books. But like I said, we have to get into the Greek thing now, because the Greek thing, please note that I'm not talking about Greek philosophy. That's thousands of years later. I'm talking about the Etruscan science of Greek mythology. That's what Robert Graves is writing on. That is black mythology. And the word mythology comes from the word mutu, which means the telling of actual events, which is actual high science. What's that, sister? Oh, I thought you was raising your hands. So that is the actual book. That is the movie that you need to get is that particular one. Those particular ones I just talked about. Also, the movie started last weekend, Ravenous, which is supposed to be about how these people eat Native Americans or eat each other to gain strength. So we're still talking about this cannibalism that is a ritualistic thing of actually taking the life force from a body to gain strength. So the movie Ravenous is out there. The movie Ravenous is out there. So it came out last week, so we need to check that particular movie out also too. Let's see. Want to deal with a couple of things here. So what you got, Nosferatu means plague carrier, which is also talking about melanin. Now you go back to the movie Blade, and he said, when they said, well, what are these vampires? He said these vampires are hominus nocturna, or hominus nocturnus. Nocturnal beings are actually black beings, black people. Even when you read the caption of the movie Lost Boys, and I'm going to get into this because there's a difference between the vampires that you know of as legend and what they're literally talking about as the House of Dracul. The hominus nocturnus, or nocturnal beings, in the movie Lost Boys, in the captions it says, party all night, sleep all day. Now what the hell you know do that but a damn nigga? Right there I said, oh, okay then. You read between the fucking lines. Party all night, sleep all day. You see what I'm saying? Read between the lines. Now, I'm going to break this thing down so you can understand what's going on. But before I do that, I want to see if I got any other notes that I want to deal with before I go into that particular science at this particular time. Any other thing that I'm leaving out? Before I go into that particular science right now. So anyway, the movie Vampire in Brooklyn. Okay, that's what it is. Before I get to that, I want to deal with this. Apparently, I was in 1994, I saw this particular book in the store dealing with the body of, apparently they literally, they did some science on the body of Ramesses. And in so many words, in this particular book I saw in the store, it was dealing with something based on the psychic phenomenon or shadow matter as relating to the body of Ramesses, the Ramesses mummy. Anyway, I think I was a little short of money, so I said, because it was late at night, I said, well, I'm going to go home and I'll come back tomorrow morning and I'll pick the book up, because I just ran up on the book. And I hid the book. But the next morning when I came there, when I got back to the store, the book was gone. So obviously they was looking at me, looking for me. And I didn't get they was watching me, and I didn't get the name of the book. So that was 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and one day I was in a bookstore and I picked up this book called The Unknown Spirit by Gene Sharon, C-H-A-R-O-N. And it's called The Unknown Spirit, and voila, it ended up being that particular book based on this Ramesses mummy, because we also know that they had 40-something labs dealing with Ramesses mummy, and they got all types of memory and all types of stuff from these from Ramesses mummy. You see what I'm saying? And I picked up that particular book. Now, just want to deal with some things. There's with the movie Blade. How many people saw the movie Blade? Awesome movie. But there was a lot of other things that was going on in the movie that you have to go and study. Number one, the old figures, because there was some made vampire, but then there was some older figures, the one that the guy killed. But if you notice, one of the old figures they showed was a black man with dreadlocks. And in so many words, the older figures were in fact black people. Now I'm explaining this thing because I'm going to explain this thing. I got to go into this particular science tonight so you can understand this. But anyway, a lot of that particular science, if you want to go deeper into particular science, to try to understand, because there's a lot more, a lot of that science was taken from role-playing stuff called the Vampire Masquerade. You can go down, you can find these things in any science fiction section at Coliseum, Forbidden Planet, and all that. And this is the Book of the Kindred. And you're going to find out about these vampire wars and different things that's actually going on. But it's interesting because they had a show that came on CBS in 1996 called Kindred the Embrace. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's interesting because the guy that's writing some of the Vampire Masquerades is Mark Rain Hagen, who is the guy who was the producer of the show Kindred and the Embrace. So this whole Blade thing is all hooked up in there, and Blade being the Messiah. And that whole thing. But what I have to do tonight is I have to break down some of these, some of the mysteries, so you can have a greater understanding on what this particular science is. What this particular science is, I got to break down some of the actual mysteries of this particular science. But in so many words, in the work of Anne Rice, whole Vampire Chronicles is based off of a queen that came out of Egypt called Acacia. Now the word Acacia means blackening stage, a black substance in India. You get the word Akashic records from that. Now, in an article that came out of Nexus magazine called Starfire, and the Goal of the Gods, it's called Starfire, the Goal of the Gods in Nexus magazine. This article that came out of that the last couple of months, the guy, he beat around the bush, and he was basically talking about this Starfire and the Goal of the Gods, and in so many words he was talking about melanin. But he beat around the bush on the first article, but he dropped a lot of science, because he even talked about the word sama, the word ambrosia, and all that stuff means food of the gods, means melanin. But the second article, he just came right with it. And he quotes, he talks about in very recent time, medical science has identified the hormone secretion of the pineal gland, finally isolated in 1968. The essence is called melatonin, which means night worker. Okay? Night worker. We're going to break this down in a few minutes, because this is what the Dracula shit is all talking about. The Greek word melos, which means black, and tosos, which means laborer. Thus, a high melatonin output is strongly, those with high melatonin output react strongly against sunlight because it affects their mental capacity. Now, I say, wait a minute now. What the hell is this cracker talking about? But then I say, no, you must think. Let me go in and think. This is in chapter 2 of his articles. First of all, the skin of melanin protects you from the sun. You see what I'm saying? No melanocytes, no protection from the sun. Now I'm trying to understand what this white boy is saying. He's saying now, he's not talking about this attribute that protects you from the sun. He's talking about the inner cavities of the brain and the pineal gland. And he says it reacts strongly against sun. And I understand what he's talking about because we are a nocturnal people. Which means, because we have protection from the sun, in so many words, we don't really have to worry about that. But then again, on the other hand, and what this white boy is saying in so many words is about the melanin reacts against sunlight. He's talking about the inner regions because melanin is most active at night. You see what I'm saying? You got to listen to what he's saying. It's a night laborer. You see, it's a night laborer. Now, I want to show you this particular part, and now listen. Now this bears witness, now this particular section in the Starfire, the Golden God, bears witness to what I've been telling you about what you call Satan and what the white boy calls Satan is two different things. And he quotes. So the word melanin, Greek melos, and the word melos, if you look in Robert Graves, if you want to study melanin, you can't. In Egypt they give it other names, Kim and all that. But if you want to study melanin, you got to get Robert Graves' Greek myths. And in the back of that book, he has a whole list of words with the word mel on it. And they all related: black man, black foot, black god. The word melos, which also means black, but it also means apple, which is the same Garden of Eden. It's all in Robert Graves' book, Greek Myth. They got 2 volumes they put out now together for $16. And that's where the white boy is getting all his stuff from when he fashioned his language. He's getting it from the Greek thing. So you got to go and get the Robert Graves Greek Myth, which is still our shit. So now look, listen to this. This is what I want to get to right now. The Starfire so-and-so, let me break this thing down, melanin, so-and-so. Melatonin is called the hormone of darkness and is produced only at night and in the dark. The exposure of excessive sunlight actually makes the pineal gland smaller and lessens the spiritual awareness and weakens the darkness, and whereas darkness and high pineal activity enhances a keen initiative knowledge of the subtle mind, reducing the stress factor. Now it's interesting because even in Thomas Jefferson, when he was writing on the slaves, he said he never heard and saw people who they worked them from sun up to sundown, and yet these people stayed up partying all night knowing they had to get up the next morning. He said he couldn't understand it, and he mentioned them as being nocturnal beings. You see what I'm saying? You see. But what they don't realize is the nocturnal beings is you got to get enough sleep, because this stuff works in dream time. You see what I'm saying? So it works in dream time. Now, this is the point I want to make right here. The stage, at this stage, it is the interest to note that the Christian church eventually demolished the true sense of the Starfire. This is the point I'm trying to get right here, so-and-so. There were known as the dragons, or the Pendragons, also known as Draco. It says, by the virtue of their body containing the supplementary melatonin and other hormone secretions, they were known as the Prince of Darkness. There it is right there. What the cracker calls the Prince of Darkness and Satan, he's talking about melanin. He goes on to talk about the house of Dracul and Dracula being linked to this thing. Now, even when you go in and you find that Christopher Lee's movies from 1946 to 1975, one of his movies was called Dracula, Prince of Darkness, the 1966 movie. Then he had one called Taste the Blood of Dracula, where here again, in this particular movie, they got a bunch of white boys, they church people in the daytime, but at night, they go to the whorehouse, and they have all kinds of mystical adventures. And they meet up with one guy, and he said, "Oh, y'all He said, I see what the deal is with y'all. You all are outstanding pillars of the community. He said, but at night, and secretively in y'all little circle, you like to dabble in all types of mysterious things. He said, y'all ready to go to the next level? They was like, yeah, we ready to go to the next level. We got this little group going. He said, y'all ready to renounce God and call on Satan? And all right, and in so many words, he said, they said, what? And so one guy got scared. He said, come on. And he went and went to this guy's house who had gotten the blood of Dracula. When Dracula died, the guy was happened to be on the scene and scooped up all the blood. And he said, I want you all, because you all got the money because they're in this secret society, I want you all to pay for this blood. And we're going to bring back Dracula. And one guy said, I don't know about that. And they said, well, if you don't do it, you out of the doggone circle. So in so many words, they paid for the blood and they had a ceremony. And the younger guy who was going to help them do this thing ended up dying and Dracula came back. But in so many words, what they're literally talking about here is melanin. And when we go into some science in a few minutes, we'll explain what's going on. Now, what does the vampire do? He sleeps in the day and he wakes up at night. Melanin is dormant in the day, but at night, it wakes up. So if you take the physical aspect of what they're talking about based on these vampires and the physical person sucking the blood, you understand where I'm coming from? And put a secretion or a hormone, you literally got a mythology explaining melanin. So what does it do? What does it do? It supposedly survives off of blood. What does melanin do? It goes and it seeps into the central nervous system. You see what I'm saying? And bathes the body at night through also the blood. You get where I'm coming from here? Then after it does its thing, when the sun comes up, it goes dormant. You see? It goes dormant. So what they're literally talking about here in so many words, they're talking about the actual inner workings of what melanin does. As a result, you become the immortal, the undead. You see what I'm saying? Because the simple fact, if you was in your right stage, the melanin would regenerate the cells. You see what I'm saying? That's what the Crow does in the movie The Crow. You see? So all of this stuff that they're talking about, so in so many words, they were talking about black people. Now in the movie Blade, what did the old people do? The older group, which was the original vampires or the original clan, they did one thing. They forgot their true history and forgot the sacred artifacts and the damn language. That's just like a nigger. You see? Blade acted as a link based on the day walkers, you see, and based on the night walkers. He just didn't know who the hell he was. You see what I'm saying? But they gave you the answer in another movie that's on a video now called John Carpenter's Vampires. Now in this movie, they got a little bit of vampire slayers and they just slaying the little other, putting the ropes on these vampires, dragging them out in the sunlight and they explode. And they would kill up a couple of vampires and all hell break loose until this damn original master vampire came in there and killed up the whole crew. He represented the black man. Now look at the caption, because this is, see, what they do with these movies, they release these movies and they'll give you part 1 Blade. Then they'll give you part 2, which is John Carpenter's Vampires, came out right after Blade. You're like, what's the fascination on these vampires? I say, it's got to be more than what's going on. So what happened was the movie Blade came out, then John Carpenter's Vampire came out, then they got a book called The Vampire Book Is This Thick, which came out in 1994. The guy held off. He did a revised version that came out right before Christmas of this thing. And he basically held off, he said, because he wanted to add both Eddie Murphy in the book as Nosferatu, and he wanted to add Wesley Snipes in the book. But when you go and look at this vampire book, about $19, and it's all this stuff, when you clearly look at it and read between the lines, they're talking about something on a higher level. Now, which I'll go into in a few minutes on what they're talking about here. In so many words, when you go get the movie Nosferatu or the movie Vampire in Brooklyn, If you look at the actual casket that he's in, it is literally a sarcophagus. It's just as well as you go see the movie Blade, the black woman that was Blade's mother, she got out of a sarcophagus. Now in the movie Vampire in Brooklyn, he said that we came from Egypt. There's only a few of us left, and I got to come over to America to get Angela Bassett, who was one of the last surviving ones, but she didn't know who she was because she was dead. So in so many words, this is not talking about something evil as it is talking about a lineage of an ancient house of Dracul, or Draconian, which is the Typhonian dynasties of pre-dynastic Egypt. You see what I'm saying? Pre-dynastic Egypt. Even in the movie, when the guy gave him the thing to kill him, he didn't give him a regular steak, he gave him a fucking knife with an ankh on the end. In the movie, the Eddie Murphy movie, Vampire in Brooklyn. And might I add, which was not produced by a black person, it was produced by Wes Craven, who was a Nightmare on Elm Street shit. You see what I'm saying? So in so many words, I'm going to explain to you how this thing, the vampire, in so many words, is in a relationship, or what they're talking about in these movies, is in a relationship of the Messiah. And they're talking about a black person now. So they're taking all this old mythology and stuff that used to be just regular entertainment for white people, and now they're putting the science back in it. You see what I'm saying? That's why they had to go get Wesley Snipes and all these particular people to do it, starting with Vampire in Brooklyn, as well as Vampire in Brooklyn, as well as Blackula back in the 70s. Back in the 70s. You see what I'm saying? Now, let me go on, because which leads us to Anne Rice's books. Anne Rice got a whole bunch of vampire chronicles, and the first vampire, the Queen of the Damned, is Acacia, which is this woman that's in Egypt, and something goes down, some type of turmoil between her and two twins, and they unleash a particular god by the name, and now listen to this now. This god transforms Acacia into this vampire, the Queen of the Damned, by getting into her body. And by getting into her body, he transfers her into the undead of this immortal being. Now listen to what the name of this particular, the key now to all of her vampire chronicles, you saw the interview with the vampire, which they mentioned in the movie, and they might have did it on the video. They say the most sacred blood is the blood of a Creole, which is a black person. You see what I'm saying? But now, what I'm trying to tell you is, you know, these white people go crazy over this Anne Rice stuff. And Anne Rice works for the damn government. Because the shit she writing in the books is straight up esoteric. So these motherfuckers they ain't putting out all this stuff just for damn fun and games. They serious about this. Now, this is what the deal is. The key on what I'm trying to tell you is all the interview with the vampire, and all she got tons and tons of books on vampires. The first vampire who is infected, to become a vampire, to become this immortal goddess who lives forever, is infected by a god by the name of Amel. Melon. Amel. Amel is a spirit who fuses with Acacia and makes the first vampire. You see what I'm saying? Makes the first vampire. Amel was an ancient Middle Eastern word for evil, which is talking about Eve, evening, beginning, and El, beginning star, black sun. You see what I'm saying? And all. Amel. Now listen, this is what she says here in her books. When she mentions alchemy, which is the study of melanin, she say alchemy, the process that is devised in the Middle Ages as a means of producing the philosopher's stone. It's basically, we talk about Egypt, but they had a lot of alchemy done in the Middle Ages because that was the Moors that brought up all the alchemical texts. You see what I'm saying? As the philosopher's stone, which I told you was melanin, which the term could turn base metals into gold and prolong in life. So obviously it was not talking about the study of base metals. See, the thing about alchemy, when you see these TV shows, they'll say, oh, it's about turning, they was trying to make gold. They even made a whole movie called Hudson Hawk about the shit. But why they say Hudson Hawk, That's Horus. And he's a thief. Christ don't come like a thief in the night. And the whole shit was based on melanin and the whole production of gold and alchemy. But he goes and says, but what is this base metals turns into gold that prolongs life? What is a metal that's turned into gold has to do with prolonging your life? Because they're not talking about the production of gold or the base metals outwardly. They're talking about the base metals just solidifying in your body that turns into gold, which is the great works of the alchemy of your whole process of all of the actual minerals, alloys, and everything else that's in the universe that's in your body coming to one point or the crystal stage. Including, we found this out. Now look at this. See, they got certain words that they got certain words that they've taken out of the English language, or they just don't mention in books. They will literally take a word and colonize a word, and you won't hear the word for 100 years. Apparently, they'll name Christ. There's another ancient word. They always talk about Christ, Greek for Christos. There's another ancient word for Christ in Greece called Chrysomelos. The Rosicrucians use this word to this day. You can find it in the Rosicrucians' documents. But they understood that they would have to literally colonize this word. Like what's the name? John Henry Clark said they colonized history. They will colonize a single word. Take it out of existence. Because they know if you study Chrysomelos, sooner or later you will know that that shit means melanin. You see what I'm saying? Not only mel, but the word mal, Malachi, and all these particular words. Chrysomelos. You see what I'm saying? So now, in so many words, listen to this. Alchemy symbolized the illumination of salvation and the putrefaction and immortality. Magnus, which is an alchemist in Anne Rice's books, who steals the immortal blood from a vampire, but in a larger sense, Rice views the vampire as the symbolic alchemist who transforms blood into the spiritual eternal substance. There you have it in black and white. That's why they're doing all these vampire movies. I want you to read this again to try to understand so you can break the code on what this shit is. Now, they got over damn near just about every 2 or 3 years they're making vampire movies. They make more vampire movies than they make anything. The key is, or what she's saying, Anne Rice is saying, that Magnus, which is a character in her book, who stole the immortal blood from a vampire, but in a larger sense, Rice views vampires as symbolic alchemists, which is the study of melanin, who transforms blood into spiritual eternal substance. She goes on and she gives almost 20 to 30 representation of vampires, and as far as the vampires as representations of vampires that's attributed to vampires as well as attributed to Osiris and Jesus Christ. They're almost identical. You see what I'm saying? So now, listen, but it's all coming from this stuff called Amel, the blood of Christ. A metaphor that Lestat uses. Lestat is one of her characters in her book. That's the one that Tom Cruise played, I think. Uses to convey how he sensed that Lewis felt about the dark gift. Lewis took it gladly and at awe, as if it was the blood of Christ. Lestat offers his blood to his fans as Christ offers his blood during his rock concert, or because it's something. Lestat has something to do with being a rock musician in one of his things. But in so many words, she's given the blood of Christ. Now listen, what she's saying is this. Apparently, in most vampire mythology, they can bite you and you can die. But in order for you to become a vampire, he literally has to give you some of his blood. They showed it in the movie where he cut the thing and gave Brad Pitt some of the blood, and Brad Pitt became immortal. You see what I'm saying? Well, if you understand the whole thing of blood of Christ, the blood of Christ is shed upon you and you become Christ-like. You will see that these crackers are literally dealing in a certain amount of mythology, and if you study the mythology, you will understand what's going down. Born in darkness, this is all in her book. She got about 10 something books. Born in darkness, a phrase that Lestat uses to refer to the process of being transformed into a vampire. Okay, well, let's go on. Dark blood, a vampire jargon referring to their own blood through which mortals can be transformed into vampires. The power is a result of the spiritual infusion of our male, who initially transforms the blood into a mortal being, Akasha into immortal substance. Right there, they're showing you that this shit is all about melanin in Anne Rice's books. You see what I'm saying? The dark gift, the power to become an immortal, is transmitted through the vampire blood and is conferred to those vampires who call it the dark trick. So over and over, she goes into this particular stuff about the actual dark blood. She goes into Egypt. She goes into all of that. Now, which in so many words, if you break it down and take the human figure out of it and just look at what the vampire does, it comes out in the night. It comes upon you. You get affected by it, and what happens is you turn immortal, and nothing can kill you. It's talking about the Christ thing, and what they're doing in these movies is they're showing this stuff over and over and over again. But if you want to get more and more on the Blade thing, you need to go get the Book of the Kindred, is the Vampire Masquerade, which in actuality, they talk about an ancient group of black vampires called the antediluvians. And they say that the antediluvians are the oldest vampires, and the younger ones are the ones that was turned by them, that you see in the Blade movie. But in so many words, it says that in the last days, the antediluvians will come back and kill off the rest of the vampire clan. So in so many words in the movie Blade, when they killed that old member, that was the ritual in the movie where they was trying to kill that ancient black man. You see, because why is that? Why were they trying to kill him? Because according to the White Wolf Publishing Company out of Stone Mountain, Georgia, who putting out all this shit, apparently these older vampires, which is the antediluvians who existed as long as the earth existed, is talking about black people. And he said that they, see, in this book he says, he says that there's a group of people called the antediluvians. The antediluvian is a word which you get in the Hermetic text. They call the antediluvian world is Atlanteans. After the flood, or antediluvian, in that whole 9 yards and all. Now Anubis, Tahuti says that he comes from the Syriac land of antediluvia, which means after the flood. You're right. It's interesting because they're saying that these older groups have immortal powers, but the bloodline has been thinned down to the point that the younger ones, they got the same attributes, but they really don't have no powers. So in actuality, that's talking about us, because we used to be greater than that. Now what it says in here, that based on, and this is real shit. These white boys ain't writing this shit. Based on, this is the Book of the Kindred. They got a vampire Bible called the Book of Nod. What they say in this particular stuff, they say that the antediluvians is going to come back and they're going to wipe out everything that don't have the original bloodline, including the degenerated vampires, which is watered down niggas or whatever. I'm just, now. You see, now, and they said that they talk about this thing called it's called Ganea, when the antediluvians will awake from they will wake from their dream state and literally will kill across the land, and they are called the elders, and that's what the group that was in the movie Blade was these antediluvians. That's when you see the man with the long black dreadlocks. But it's just that the government in the movie, they turn around and they kill off the damn elders. with the head elder they kill off when they put him in the sun. All this shit is based on ritual. You got to understand, it's based on ritual, on what this stuff is talking about. Now look, here's a book by the name of Douglas Niles is his name. Now he wrote this book and it's called The Darkened Heights by Douglas Niles. It's a 3-book trilogy, but it goes in to talk about, for we have witnessed the power of the dark blood, an evil liquid that has breached watershed, and they know that bloodshed and destruction will continue. And anyway, in so many words, I jumped and told you this. Anyway, over and over, these books, they're dealing with this dark blood and this black blood, which you see in the whole X-File movie and all this type of shit. Key is to this particular thing in the movie Phantoms. The key is to this particular thing. If you substitute blood, because clearly we have blood and we are not blood suckers. You got other people that drink blood. Now, based on this guy here, he says that there's some other beings, he says that they're evil ones or counterfeit spirits. And he said these counterfeit spirits are not as bad if they kill somebody. He said because sometimes killing a mug don't really mean nothing. That's transformation. He said they are bad and they are evil because they are vampires that they drain energy. And he said his thing is there's 2 types, black and white, that always want to touch your ass. But then again, you know niggas that come around you, and when they leave, you drain. Now, in so many words, what are they talking about? They're talking about succubus energy. Now, as a result, I got a homeboy, and I love him to death. But whenever he come around, I get sick. Every time he comes around, I get sick. But he has a succubus energy. You see, and that's what he's talking about based on this. You see what I'm saying? Now I'm going to take this further in a few minutes to even show you some other shit. Because there's a space vampire, which the damn white boy is mad with, upset with. And that's some things you got to understand also too. But he's talking about these particular ones in this particular science as far as these particular blood suckers also. Now, which leads us to, what time you got?
Another hour and a half.
Half, right, because I want to get into this, and this is the crux of my story. And I want to get into, what's that, brother?
That book is called The Darkest Night, you said?
Darkened, Darkenheight. Darkened Height. Douglas Niles. Douglas Niles, you know. Another book is called The Queen of Darkness. All this stuff coming out at the same time. The future is paradise, but not for humans. Lords of Blood. 2,000 years ago, the stargazers led by immortal Moon Queen sparked a global nuclear war and blotted out the sun and conquered the world and rewrote history. Now humans are cattle whose blood feeds the master race. The glorious rulers are of high-tech cities. Although they are called stargazers, we know them by their true name, vampires. See, all this shit coming out. Queen of Darkness. My guild, M-I-G-U-L, Connor. You see what I'm saying? All this stuff is coming out and all based on that. So, let me get into the science of what's really going down. And this is what we literally should be partying about. Because we are literally sitting in a glorious time. Now, I told you, I started off telling you that this whole impeachment shit was not based on that. It was a ritual that was going down, that they had to do a ritual before the summer solstice, the winter solstice. And that's why they worked hard and convened on 2 Saturdays to impeach the Clinton man, and then right after Christmas they just let his ass go. You see? But they constantly said over and over and over again that we couldn't remove him from office. They were saying that before they even went into the impeachment. But this was a ritual. And I told you that one guy stood up in the middle of the impeachment on that Saturday and said, we have now entered the abyss, and we must double back from the abyss. Please double back from the abyss. And I'm like, wait a minute, these motherfuckers got a ritual going on. Meanwhile, I told you that they got that white, let me tell you, I should have brought the book with me. They got the book, The Lost Keys of Solomon. Yeah. And this guy named Baring in the book, who was a big-time Israeli. Now, let me tell you what these Jews say. These Jews is urging all people, and mainly their race, to get this medallion to ward off this evil energy, and they selling the hell out of them in Atlanta. And in the book, they show 3 times where they try to sell this thing over and over, and even in the back of the book, they advertise you gotta buy this medallion. But he says in the book, he say the people of my race do rituals 8 times a year, during the winter solstice, summer solstice, spring equinox, fall equinox, to ward off a certain cosmic energy that will wreak havoc on modern day civilization. And so I said, oh, now I can understand why them white boys don't fuck with them Jews over there. Them Jews is the high priest for the white race. I'm talking about the white Jews. Now it's interesting because they said we must double back from the abyss because they was going into the winter solstice. Now let's get into what all this ritual shit was about. Meanwhile, they couldn't have no black energy jumping, so they had to shut down that damn NBA. Because that shit is all black. Now, what was going on? And it's simple. And let me go into the history of this. Because this is some of the greatest things that's actually going down. If you get about last year with the Hale-Bopp comet, we had this 49 people kill themselves, which is Heaven's Gate, right? Meanwhile, they said that they was going up to this particular spaceship that was behind Hale-Bopp. Meanwhile, the people from Emory University, Courtney Brown and them came and said, these people are mistaken because this particular spaceship is not a physical thing. It's a black cloud that's 3 times bigger than the Earth, and it's an intelligence. Okay? This is what the remote viewers from Emory University, this guy named Ed Dames and Courtney Brown and all them said. So meanwhile, the government said, okay, look, we're going to keep our mouth shut, and we're not going to explain nothing while these particular people are talking. Because as long as we don't put our input into it, the people won't believe these people. So the key is to never link up science with the metaphysics. Because both of them go hand in hand. You see what I'm saying? And all right. And you may throw in religion in there, which would be the ritualistic act of it. Never link the 3 together, you will have a real educational system, and nobody can never be educated in the country. So they say, well, what we'll do is we'll wait a year later, and we'll come out with the scientific thing of the same shit that they was talking about with the Hale-Bopp thing. So they waited a year later, and then in November of this year, November of '98, they announced, I got it right here, so it's no more bullshit. This is no more bullshit. Get it right here. Hold on 1 minute. I got it right here. They announced in November 1998. Now this is the same thing with the Hale-Bopp thing in Discover magazine, and they only put out a limited edition because most black people I tried to go get it couldn't get it. Discover magazine, November 1998. A black hole in the middle of our Milky Way. Now, it's the same Hale-Bopp shit. In the heart of our galaxy is a hungry beast who rules a mysterious realm of cataclysmic violence. Look what he said, a hungry beast that rules the mysterious realm of cataclysmic violence. Okay. Now, it's interesting because the Heaven's Gate people say it was a spaceship. Well, why is it that when they show the picture of the damn black hole, they make a funny looking little observation and the shit look like this?
Like a ship.
Look like a ship. Same shit about the Hale-Bopp comet. You see. Now this is the key. They come in and they say, hey, look, we don't have the physics to even try to understand this thing, because all the work we have done on black holes, eons away, and now this one is right into our Milky Way. It don't register with none of the stuff we know based on mathematics. Now this is the key. You remember, for the last 6 or 7 years, white people and a lot of other people was talking about the photon belt. The photon belt in science is nothing but this particular black hole. Now, I don't think I brought it, but do you know, I got a book by the Mormons, the Mormon church, and the Mormon ministers mentioned something that I even heard some of Crawley's group said. The Crawley's group said that when the ancient people saw black holes, they automatically put the zoo type to explain it as hideous monsters and dragons and beasts. As time went on, the later day people who came in could not interpret it, and they ruled it all out as evil. Now this is the interesting thing, because the Mormon church said, and I got the book, the Mormon church said, could black holes be the pit or the abyss in the Bible where they so-called say that the so-called sinners is supposed to go? Or he said, what would God do with that leftover material that was the building blocks for the universe, was for creation, but it being a black hole? Then we go into this. The book, The Unknown Spirit by Gene Sharon, what's that, S-H-A-R-O-N? Sharon says that they have related this. And I'm going ahead of myself, but let me explain something. The reason why they say that they don't have no mathematics to figure this out. Now, first of all, let me tell you the deal is, when they telling you that the black hole is in our solar system, they're being conservative. The motherfucking Earth and all our solar system is right in the middle of this damn black hole as we speak. Now let me show you something. When they say that they don't have the physics and stuff to explain this thing, what they mean is they got the occult knowledge to explain this thing. And they understand that that universe out there is called the petty universe, which is only a reflection of the greater universe, and the greater universe is always the hidden land, which is the inner universe. So if there's a black hole out there, there's a black hole opening up in the ancient people, which is your shit coming online. See what I'm saying? Okay? Now, they understand that their mathematics is right. What they can try to figure out, they can't calculate that out there, because that ain't ruled by that out there. It is ruled by the subconscious, the black hole in you, the black dot. Now, if I think I'm bullshitting, this is what this book by Gene Sharon saying about the unknown spirit. Because the book, this person links the Ramesses body, then she has he or she has a whole thing on black holes, and then the last synopsis or the last conclusion of the book is the black holes in space is directly related with the DNA of the body. And this controls that. Now, that means that they got to do rituals, and distraction is the #1 thing of the government, which means we can never let your ass go offline. What I mean by this is, every damn month, they got to occupy you with some bullshit on the news. Because if there's a gap in between, you can wake up. Go look at the movie Running Man again. How they had the signal in the game going the whole time, the Running Man, and the rebels had to break through with a bogus signal just to wake the people up. So you got to look for more and more stuff. So there's going to be a rape shit with Clinton coming down. They already started that shit by them raping this woman. They got shit lined up to 2058. You see?
Everybody on clear quiet.
Because the number one role in mind control is if you can distract the subconscious, if you can distract the conscious mind, it leaves the subconscious mind wide open for you to pimp them like hoes. See what I'm saying? Now, this is one of the keys. So, in so many words, with this particular black hole that's out there, it's all being run by us. In so many words, that's the actual photon belt. Now, it's got to the point where, right before Christmas, every damn day in Atlanta, people was getting hit by cars. And what we figured out was the reason why they was getting hit by cars was the time had speeded up so much until they was miscalculating. When they step out in the car, you can calculate how much time you got before you can walk out in the street and get from the other side of the street before you get hit by the cars. But because the time had speeded up, they was miscalculating and getting hit by cars and shit. You see what I'm saying? I mean, every day for almost a damn month, I swear to you, niggas was white people and black people was getting hit by cars. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, this particular black hole, Nostradamus and them, they got a book out called the Nostradamus Code. Came out right before Christmas. They were supposed to release this book in fall of 1994. But what happened is they had to spend more money translating it. So they just finally got it finished, and the Destiny Books just put it out called the Nostradamus Code. Apparently, all Nostradamus quatrains that he had, that there are these codes that even go further into his quatrains or his particular psychic sayings or his psychic prophecies. And they got all these particular codes and all this stuff that's supposed to happen. But do you know the last chapter in the book and the last couple of pages in the book, that his end time shit, he showed that same damn black hole in space. They got the shit in the book. This same black hole in space, he showed the same black hole. And that black hole is known as Leviathan in the Bible, which in McGregor's Mather's Kabbalah, he figured out that Leviathan was not the enemy. The Leviathan is a dragon, which is a black hole, simply put there as an executioner of judgment. And this